right, back from the Zwift Mallorca event in Spain, and you're probably wondering what was going on. Zwift in real life doesn't make any sense, right? I was thinking the same thing. So what did we do? And put simply, it's just a community event that got a bunch of like-minded individuals together to enjoy bike riding. It's really that simple. There are a couple of product releases that Zwift wanted to talk about, but that was not the focus of the event. We spent 4 days in Mallorca, Spain, and I treated it almost like a training camp. So I want to spend this time to go through my experience and talk about how amazing it was and how much fun I had meeting cool people, going full fanboy over Matt Stevens, Mark Cavendish, Kristen Armstrong. More on that in a little bit. Let's start things off with Wednesday when I flew in. So jet lagged as hell, I get in Wednesday afternoon and bike did not make it, which is all right because I was like, well, maybe it's going to make it later in the afternoon for a media ride that happened on Thursday, the following day. No luck. Thursday rolls around. We do spend about 45 minutes this entire weekend talking about some new products that Zwift is releasing. I'm gonna do a quick rapid fire on those new products. So first is a crank arm for the Zwift ride, which is like that bear claw design. You can actually choose crank lengths now. This was my biggest complaint about the Zwift ride. Glad they remedied that. Also, there is now fitness tracking and, well, actually the headline here is outside rides now count on Zwift. You get experience for riding outside, they count towards your Zwift avatar, and you can level up that way. That's pretty cool, but they're moving towards this fitness tracking, which they're gonna be releasing over the coming months. I'm not the person to talk to about the details of this release, so I'm gonna link video in the description that goes to DC Rainmaker, who is also at this event, which was cool to see him. And he outlines all of the new releases in a much more eloquent and succinct fashion. But after the quick PowerPoint presentation, it was like, all right, no more of this corporate nonsense. Zwift employees were like, let's go ride bikes. And I was like, man, I really want to go ride my bike. If for nothing else, to like get outside and try to get used to the time difference. But my bike still wasn't there. Fortunately, shout out to Nick, a Zwift employee, who happens to be like my exact same size, was like, oh, I already went on a ride this morning. You can use my bike. So I got to ride this fancy canyon air road and was able to go out and do the media ride, which I'll pull up the ride right now. And so as you can see, this is the beginning of the media ride. We just did kind of an out and back here, or a loop rather. Very chill, like very chill. The idea here isn't I'm getting fitness. The idea here was to mingle and just like I said, go full fanboy with all of cycling media who was out there, including the CEO of Zwift, Eric, who I rode with. You can see him right here. Just a super fun, enjoyable experience. And once we got back, I was like, you know what? My body thinks it's like 10 a.m. I want to do some bonus miles, even though it was much later in the afternoon, getting close to sundown actually. And a couple of us, this is Max from the Watt Life, and this is Thomas from the Cycling Tattooist. I will let you decide who is who. The three of us went out and did this little coastal out and back, which was amazing. Like, I was so happy. This was just like vibes were very high on this ride because it was beautiful out, and I was just happy to be riding my bike. I was sitting on a plane for 20 hours or whatever it was, and we almost made it out to this point, but we ended up turning around, coming back. I did a couple of efforts, as you can see here back in the ride, but it was very much like kind of a zone to shake the legs out, get ready for the big rides to come, which leads us to the conclusion of Thursday. My bike did arrive Thursday night, so I gave the stuff back to Nick, and I actually had my bike built up, ready to go Friday morning for the first proper day of this. I was about to call it a training camp, because that's kind of how I treated it, but of this community event. All right, so we wake up Friday morning, and the way this works is we all meet out kind of in this side area between where we rent bikes, if you are renting bikes, and where our hotel is. There's this staging area. 300 of us, right? It's about 150 people from Zwift employees, cycling media, and you know, content creators, influencers type people, and then about another 150 who are paid guests, because this is a service. This is something that you can enjoy. You pay a certain amount of money, I can't remember what it is, but you get like hotel, you get food, you get all the support, which you're gonna get into, and you get these guided rides throughout Mallorca, which is one of the most amazing places you can ride. The hype is real. So we're all staged out here, like close to 300 of us, and it gets broken out into categories. Zwift did a very good job. I was concerned it was gonna be this massive, slow rolling group ride. I wasn't gonna be able to really stretch my legs and do some good training, but that was not the case. The first thing you do is you decide, do you wanna do long distance, medium distance, or short distance? And then among those three, you also get to select, okay, I want to do long distance, fast, medium, or slow speed. So they broke it out by, it was like, ended up being like 25 to 27 kilometers per hour average for the slow, 27 to 29 for the fast, and then over 30 kilometers per hour average for the fast group. Now, the distances ended up being about 130 kilometers. We're going to talk all about the rides here in a second, but the point is, I was, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I was in the fast and long distance group, which there were maybe 12 of us on the first day, which included 2 neo-pros, which was really cool. This is Noah from Alpecin de Koenig, and then there's also Emily from Canyon SRAM. And then we had a bunch of other cool folks in this lead group. And other than like a couple of very short, one cafe stop and then one water stop, we were moving. Let's actually take a look at the ride. So again, a really chill rollout, and then this first little climb here didn't last very long, but what was I doing? 250, so like a kind of upper zone 2. First little bit of effort here on this trip. And then, oh, this descent was so wicked. I have good footage of this descent. Now, I was following Andreas, and he is a very skilled descender, and he is very confident on the bike, and he was a trusted wheel to follow. He's done this descent before. Otherwise, I would not be going this fast on the descent, you guys. This was a very high-speed descent. You can tell, obviously, it's very switchbacky. If we look at the map here, let's see if the map's gonna even show it. Oh yeah, look at these switchbacks. So really switchbacky descent, and which meant that like you don't really get recovery. Yeah, look, I'm sprinting. Look at my power profile here. I'm sprinting out of every corner, just to try to keep up with Andreas, who was really jamming on the descent. This was a lot of fun. And then of course, Noah shows his mountain biking background and comes blowing past us towards the end. What a fun descent. Got the adrenaline going for what ended up being a really tough climb, because we decided, let's do some intervals up this climb. This is Puig Major. This is one of the bigger climbs we did the whole weekend. What are the stats on this climb? Looks like about 12 kilometers at 6%. And we were doing 40-20s over under. So like VO2 max effort. So 40 seconds at what I think was about 120% probably FTP, and then 20 seconds like zone 2 recovery. And now the power you're gonna see here is weird. And this was actually kind of a funny story, because Nick was in our group and I had borrowed his bike the day before. I had made the rookie mistake of not repairing my head unit to my power meter. So as we're rolling out, I mean the first like 2 hours of this ride, my power meter was collecting his power data. And because we're about the same size, I couldn't really tell until we started these intervals, because I would pull ahead of Nick during the interval, and then he would cross back when we're recovering. And then I'd pull away, and each time I pulled away, the power meter is disconnecting. I'm like going crazy. I'm like, this is like the only power data I want from this ride. The other stuff is all zone 2, whatever. But I kind of want to know what VO2 max intervals I'm doing and how long and what the power is. So unfortunately, we have kind of weird data for the climb. But in any case, I mean, the training was still there. The adaptations were still there. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was worried at first that I wasn't going to be able to, like I said, really ride hard and really stretch my legs during this this weekend. But the opposite was true. Like these folks I was with, Andreas, Pia, his girlfriend, and these other folks on this ride were plenty strong. So it was a lot of fun. It was a good workout. And then we ended up doing this other pretty fast and technical descent. But from there, it was really just kind of zone 2 back to the hotel. So this first proper day ended up being 4.5 hours of active time on the bike, 179 TSS, although it's probably more like 220 or 230 because of that power meter connection issue. After that, back to the hotel, recover mode engage. We got the Normatex on the legs. We're recovering as hard as we can. Plenty of food in. Listen to Kristen Armstrong talk about her absolutely inspiring, incredible journey to be a 3-time Olympic gold champion, and then get ready for the next day of riding. So I'll be honest with you guys, sleep wasn't great. I kind of expected this. It's the time change. I never do good. If you guys have any tips on how you can get better at combating jet lag, let me know. I just never do well with it. But in any case, we're riding, and that brings us into the second proper day. Load up on Morton. Morton was there, which is kind of cool. Like, this is just one of the perks of being involved in this Zwift community event. A lot of partners, a lot of industry partners to Zwift were at the event. You know, Garmin, Wahoo, in this case Morton for nutrition needs, and they were just like, yeah, load up, like gels and bars and things like that. Have you guys tried the Morton gels? I did not know the consistency of their gels, and it kind of took me by surprise the first time I had a gel. I won't spoil it if you haven't had a Morton gel, but it's kind of a wild experience. Anyway, let's dive into the second day of training. A bit of a shorter ride. Again, I'm a glutton for punishment, so I did the long distance, high speed. We were a little bit larger this time. Notably, it had former GCN presenter, an absolute legend. It was great to chat with, Matt Stevens. And then also we had Freddie Ovet, who is like proper strong Zwift racer, and obviously in real life racer too. I've raced with him a bunch over the years. He was a former Legion racer. And actually, funny thing about him, if we look at the ride here, it was really just almost like a glorified out and back up this absolutely beautiful climb, San Salvador, up to a monastery on top. And as we're rolling out, my power here is yeah, like kind of low zone 2, pretty chill. We get to the bottom of the climb, and I'm chatting with Freddie. I'm looking at his bike, and I'm like, he's got this beautiful canyon, and I'm like, ooh, he's got a 1x. And I asked him, I was like, how big is that front chain ring on a 1x? 52 tooth. SRAM 1x, and I was like, oh, we're climbing fast, because I know he's not going to want to grind at 40 cadence up this San Salvador climb, which is, let's see, 4.5 kilometers at 7%. So not the biggest climb in the world, but I knew it was going to be a pretty tough climb. And actually, it wasn't too bad. He went easy on us, and I pretended like it didn't hurt as much as it did. And I ended up doing, let's see, 3:15, 3:19 normalized for 15, almost 16 minutes. So yeah, that's like kind of sweet spot, upper sweet spot for me. It was plenty hard, especially the day before being a pretty big day. And yeah, again, beautiful descent. You can see on this descent just how many cyclists there are in Mallorca. Somebody described it as the Disneyland of bikes, and I swear, I think there are more bikes than cars. There are more bikes than people on Mallorca. And it was clearly demonstrated as we were going down this descent, and then even more so as we got to this cafe stop. Guys, this, like, I don't know if the GoPro is going to do it justice, but this rack of bikes, all S-Works and Dura Ace and SRAM Red, there must have been $1 million worth of fancy carbon in here for this, apparently what's a pretty famous cafe. The coffee was banging, I will confirm. And from there, I did one more effort. Legs were starting to finally wake up. I think it's the time difference. Like, my body thought it was, you know, like 10 a.m. here, when instead it was like late in the afternoon. I did one more effort here, nothing crazy, but kind of upper zone 2 on the way home, just to finish off the effort, which ended up being, let's see, 3 hours, 45 minutes at 153 TSS with my actual power meter paired this time. So these are real numbers. And that brought us back to the hotel at a pretty reasonable time, because this was a shorter day. And it's funny, when you're like training a lot, people who've done stage races or big training camps like this will know what I'm talking about. It's like you just can't get the food in fast enough. I had this entire pizza in front of me, and this was at like 3:30 or something, 3 o'clock, 3:30. And dinner service started at like 5:30, and I was like, I think I've ruined my dinner. I've just eaten way too much pizza. And I don't think I'm gonna be hungry for dinner, because it's late in the afternoon already. That turns out that is not the case. You know, 2-3 hours later, I was like, I could eat 4 plates of food, which I did at the dinner service, because the fourth and final day was a monster. But before we get there, actually, we had a special guest that evening, Mark Cavendish. Not just Mark Cavendish, Chris Hoy, 2 legends in the sport. If you've been living under a rock, they are, Chris Hoy is a multi-time, I don't even know how many. He is a Olympic champion, world champion, track racer. And then Mark Cavendish is Mark Cavendish, right? What is it, 35 Tour de France wins. He is one of the most successful road cyclists of all time. And they both gave talks. Chris Hoy was an absolute legend. Like, he was such a good public speaker, very inspiring. I did not know his story. He gave this heartfelt story. He's fighting stage 4 cancer right now. We wish him the best, but he's made it his mission to save as many lives as possible. Really, really touching story. And then Mark Cavendish gave us these really incredible insights into racing in the professional peloton. It was a really special and unexpected treat to hear from both of them, but it was time to get to sleep. Of course, not before putting on the Normatex for a little bit longer, and just trying to sneak out every last bit of recovery before the fourth day, which, like I said, ended up being the biggest day. So we're gonna round off my weekend with joining the long ride in the fast group one more time, and we took on Sa Calabra, which is probably the most famous Majorcan road to climb. So the way it works, let's pull up the ride. So Sa Calabra is this little tiny like coastal port village that has one road in and one road out. So you do this big descent down, and then you have to climb back out. You have to pay the dues for this beautiful descent. But before we get there, actually, because it was the last day, I was like, I'm gonna like ride proper zone 2 on the way out, and I'm gonna go shoulder to shoulder with Beast on a Bike, Louis, who is an amazing athlete. He's gonna do some crit racing here stateside this year. I'm excited to see what he's capable of. It was great to chat with him, great to ride with him, and yeah, we rode out just to the top of the climb at yeah, looks like 237 watts normalized for the first hour and a half or so. I really wanted to empty the tank. I really wanted to not spend any time, unnecessary time in zones 0 and zones 1, and it was good to be alongside Louis, who had the same idea. And then, guys, you got the descent down to Sa Calabra. So this descent is gonna have its own video in full length on the second channel, NorCal Cycling Extra, or I think it's just NorCal Extra, because it was just this beautiful. And we got so incredibly lucky in that there were no touring buses, there were no slowing cyclists, there were no motorists who were getting in the way of our descent. We had this uninterrupted, beautiful descent of Sa Calabra. And again, following the Germans, Andreas, and following people who have done this descent, so I was able to take pretty ripping lines down this descent. And so we get to the bottom, turn around, and Louis, Beast on a Bike, turns to me, he's like, I'm gonna do a sub 30. So for those who haven't done Sa Calabra, apparently a sub 30 is like a really impressive time. You're in pretty rarefied air if you can do that. And I was like, you have fun with that. I am going to be a tourist and not follow you on that trek. But I did end up going pretty hard, and I set off early. Let's look at the effort that I did on the climb. I set off at about, you know, like high tempo, kind of, let's see. Yeah, high 200s. And then I ended up getting caught by Louis and Andreas, who were trying to go sub 30. And I followed them for a while, which only lasted a couple of minutes at 375 watts before I decided enough's enough, and I went back to my kind of, you know, high 200s like tempo pace. And then of course I stopped a couple of times. You can see my heart rate to go full tourist mode and take photos. But coming back to how impressive Beast on a Bike Louis' effort was up Sa Calabra, he did it in 29.5 minutes, and he did it at 430 watts. So yeah, Beast on a Bike, right? Enough said. I'm excited to see what he's capable of doing the national level crit circuit here in the United States. And then we had a little bit of fun on the way back down, a couple of lumps and bumps here on the way back down. We ended up just ripping this really hard pace line, and everyone was rotating, everyone was taking pulls, and I think it was Pia, the female German cyclist, who ended up getting Queen of the Mountain on this descent, which has been attempted by like 50,000 people or something crazy. So it's a testament to how fast we were ripping on this descent. Super, super fun. What an amazing, truly the best way to cap off this training weekend and the event in general. I did one more effort here at the bottom just to empty the tank before I went and sat on a flight for, you know, 20 hours. But yeah, we truly saved the best for last. It was an amazing experience. I'm gonna leave links to the folks I mentioned down in the description. If you want to learn more about the releases that Zwift is coming out with, I'm going to leave links for those as well, because Zwift is very ambitious. At their core, this was the first time I've actually got to know like the core Zwift people, and they love this sport just like I love this sport. And their goal of Zwift Community Live is to turn this into the largest gathering of like-minded bike enthusiasts in the world. So I hope to meet you guys in future events. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.